Hello, Gooners! Have I got some interesting news for you on the loose cannon, number 21? Which player plays with that squad number? I have to leave that for now because I can't remember. Anyway, what can I tell you about Arsenal? Well, there's a lot of transfer news as you would expect. Not as much as some days, but here we go anyway. The first thing I want to say about the transfer news is don't believe everything you hear. Obviously, Robin van Persie's mother and his wife have come out to say that the player will remain at Arsenal if he does what they ask him to do. That is, and there's no guarantee, is there, that people listen to their wives and mothers. Do I, for instance? Well, I'm not married at the moment, but if you fancy getting engaged to me, give me a shout. Not really. I'll get in a lot of trouble for saying that kind of thing. But I'll tell you what I won't get in trouble for saying is that the Daily Mail and also the Daily Mirror are running a story that Nigel De Jong of Manchester City could be on the way to our club. They haven't specified how much money we're going to pay. They're just assuming, because we're probably not going to follow through our interest in Jan Mavila, that we will end up with Nigel de Jong instead. Quite why, no one really knows, but we have to assume that perhaps it's because Robin van Persie needs somebody to speak to in his native tongue in the dressing room. Nigel de Jong fits the bill, plus he's a very good player. Also, he didn't play that much for Manchester City last season, so perhaps we will indeed get him at the Emirates Stadium. Well, talking of midfielders, I have to mention Stuart Robson. I mentioned him the other day, being really scathing in his criticism of Theo Walcott. Well, he's gone a stage further. On Talk Sport, he apparently said the following: Walcott is a liability and should be sold by Arsenal this summer if he's looking for a wage increase, that kind of thing. And he also said that he's not, in his opinion, a good footballer. He's simply an athlete who puts on football boots. I don't think you can get much more damning in your verdict than that, but clearly Stuart Robson is a good pundit, which is why he's very forthright with his views, and I hate that to change. So I don't want to get on his case too much, but I think he's completely wrong about Theo Walcott. I don't think Stuart Robson would make a. I think he'd make a great coach, apart from his ideas about 3-5-2, which I don't really agree with. Besides that, I think he's very good with his tactical analysis, but I don't think he'd make a good scout. He would be buying loads of Abu Diabis for the club, and we wouldn't see the likes of Theo Walcott, who can played in the right position. I think could be more effective than what we've seen, and he's had a reasonable season by all accounts, not just mine. So I would say Robbo should leave Theo alone, but at the same time he's got to do his punditry, and that kind of stuff makes for headline news. So I don't want to criticise him too much. Another person I've never really wanted to criticise much is Johan Djourou, mainly because I think he's an excellent talent. He didn't show it very much last season, but apparently now he's considering all his options because his manager at international level has suggested that he should look elsewhere for a club so that he can walk straight into the Swiss national side. Obviously, the Swiss national side, you'd have to say, probably not as good as Arsenal, and that's not putting too fine a point on it. This is what he's quoted as saying: "My situation at Arsenal is not easy. I've never played so little, and especially not in my own position." And he also added, "If an interesting offer comes, I'll look at it carefully." Well, I think he's fully within his rights to do that. Obviously, we've lost players in the past, or perhaps not brought in players for the same reason. I think Eden Hazard chose Chelsea over us because partly because they were ready to pay the money, and secondly because at Chelsea he's guaranteed that pretty much that he's going to play in the position that he's best equipped to play in. Can Andre Arshavin say the same? How often did he play in the hole, which is his correct position? No. Instead, he was played on the left wing mostly, which clearly he wasn't really cut out for that role, even though he did well at times. So this is why we're missing out on players. Shinji Kagawa, could he play in the right position? Should he have joined us? No. So instead, he chose Manchester United, despite the sort of Japan connection that we've got at our club. An interesting thing about Hazard is that according to the MarbleHalls.com, Hazard, his goal tally is worse than Gervinho's in the French league when over a period of 2 seasons. Gervinho managed a lot more goals, which is quite surprising given how goal shy he appears to be at Arsenal. And Hazard did manage to make more assists, double the number. No surprises there because Gervinho had a pretty poor season overall, although he did start on fire. So we're going to see about that. Eduardo, meanwhile, a former gunner, is in the news. He's saying he could come back to the Premier League. As although he was a favourite at Arsenal, and I have to say, I don't think many fans would welcome him back as a player. Perhaps in another capacity, who knows? But he was a very good player until he got that horrific injury. I think since then I've had a look at his goal tallies, and I have to say he's averaging now a little bit less than one goal every 3 games playing for Shakhtar Donetsk. So that's clearly not good enough because the Premier League is a lot tougher than that. Uh, so I don't really see him coming back. Certainly not for Arsenal. Before he signed for us, he was averaging 2 goals every 3 games. So that kind of says it all. And hopefully I've said it all for today. And if you've got any comments, you know where to leave them, just below this video. Until the next time, all the best and up the Gooners.